I didn't know any of them. My father is from Kashmir, but he was a political prisoner in the 60s, and then he immigrated to America where I was born, and we never really had a connection with Kashmir, so this was my first time really going back in as an adult, and I was visiting this community and making friends with them because I knew I wanted to make a film about them. And I eventually, got to meet Gulzar, and Gulzar really struck me as a very interesting character, very charismatic person. And as I got to know him, he showed me his poetry, which the poems that he reads in the film are actually his own poems that he wrote. The song, and he sang for me, and he has, he has an amazing, beautiful voice. So I thought he was a character for the film, and so I cast him in the film. And I ended up, and we became very good friends. I ended up living with him, in the and eating with him and rowing the boat with him and sleeping, under the same mosquito net with him. So we became very close, and that kind of relationship enabled me to just sort of, we just trusted each other, and so whatever direction I gave him, he really trusted me and went along with it. So.
And his friend?
Afzal's friend was actually just a family friend of mine who was a journalist in Kashmir, and I actually initially hired him just to translate the dialogue for the film and to help Gulzar coach him a little bit into acting, because it was both of them was their first time, but Afzal had a little bit of experience doing plays in college and university. But even as they were just practicing dialogue together, Afzal would sort of bully Gulzar a little bit and push him around and make fun of him and stuff like that. So they sort of started to develop this interesting, relationship between the two of them, and there was an interesting chemistry. So I wanted to put him into the film, and so I asked him to be in the film. And a lot of the comedy, like the poses of the different deaths and things like that, are actually Afzal's own comedy that he sort of showed me, and then I worked into the film somehow. So he's a great comedian. I hope he gets to get to do a bit on stage at some point. And it should be also noted that we really wanted to bring the cast here, but Gulzar doesn't even have a passport, and it takes several months to get one in Kashmir, and so we've been trying to push that process along, and hopefully at some point we can bring him to one of the festivals, because for them to, this is not only their first time acting in a film, this is the first time, if they were to see this film, it would be the first time that they saw any film in a movie theater. There aren't any movie theaters in Kashmir as of now, and it would be great for them to see, their first film would be them on screen.
So the only actor is actually the actress who works for TV.
Yeah, so the actress Nilofer is the only professional actress. She mostly works on like soap operas locally in Kashmir. There isn't a very big film community in Kashmir, and especially we wanted to use all non-actors initially, but women acting in general is not considered a desirable profession. And for women in particular to go into acting, it's considered still pretty taboo. And so a lot of the women that go into acting just do it for financial need rather than really putting their heart into it. And so they're very overly dramatic and melodramatic, and that's what the soap operas need. But it took us a long time. We actually went into production and we didn't even have this female lead cast yet, and we were just hoping that we would find her. And we were actually filming, the whole film was taking place during the actual curfew, and so it was hard for us to meet anybody, and finally we found a producer who had a curfew pass who could go through the military checkpoints, and he brought a few actresses to us. We met them in a park somewhere and just rehearsed a few lines with them, and Nilofer, after a long search, was the first one to really be able to perform in a more naturalistic, organic way, and I think partly it's because she's very much like the character in the film. She's very independent, free-willed, strong personality. So that's how we found her.
Yannick, congratulations! Really fantastic camera work. I'm really amazed how you managed to get this intimacy between people, and also intimacy between them and the nature.
Thank you. I think the intimacy results from the fact that the entire crew is almost standing in front of you right here. Musa directed, I was holding the camera, and our producer, Nick, was recording the sound. So for the most of the time it was 3 people, sometimes an assistant or someone watching us. But it was an incredibly small crew, so from the outside, we looked like tourists. We looked like people who were, or guests of this community. So I think the fact that we were such a small crew and we had built this relationship with them, Musa had been there several times for many months, helped a lot. The other fact is that I think Musa and I come from a documentary tradition. We've directed several documentaries together. So that idea of working with the community, them informing how we would make the film was what made the difference.
Maybe you have some question. Yes, please.
Well, schools are actually aware of these environmental issues on the lake and the community as such. And was the environmental issue also something that you wanted to bring into the film in order to make the public at large more aware about these issues and maybe to bring some help into the matter?
So the question is whether these environmental issues existed, and a little bit to elaborate how they wanted to bring it in the film.
Yeah, I think there's a general awareness that there is a problem, and a lot of people will blame someone else, but everyone is really part of the problem there. But at the same time, no one really knows what they can do themselves. There isn't a sense of personal responsibility. There isn't a large private sector there. There are very few, nonprofit foundations that can successfully run their businesses because of the instability. So people really rely on the government to do everything, and if the government doesn't do anything, then it's not, then they can't do anything. So, there's been a lot of false starts and a lot of different efforts being made that are not really concerted together. So I think the film is really, trying to, hopefully, when we bring the film back to Kashmir, inspire youth in a way that they can, realize their own personal responsibility, that within their own homes, within their own communities, within just by themselves, they can make some kind of difference. So I think that's, is really about bringing it home, instead of looking at it too globally, looking at it very locally and personally, and seeing how people, can be empowered to make change.
Some more questions or maybe comments that you want to share with us about the film? Maybe we can have also lights in the theater if that's possible, because we can't see the audience from here. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, so the film was all in Kashmiri language, and people still do speak Kashmiri for the most part, although most of my cousins that are, below the age of, 13 or 14, they're starting to speak Urdu only now. And so the Kashmiri language itself is starting to die and is starting to be used much less. I myself grew up in America. I didn't speak Kashmiri going into making this film. And so what we would, I wrote the script in English, and then every night me and Afzal would go over the translation of the dialogue in each scene, so I could know what each word meant and how it was translated, and know sort of where to put the emphasis on certain words. So I learned a lot of Kashmiri myself, at least all the dialogue in the film I understand. And it was interesting. It was a challenge, to direct in a foreign language. But it also, I think, it helped me not to rely so much on the dialogue and to really, look at really focus on the performances and the landscape and the relationships of the people, and not so much, what they were saying.
Some more questions?